Perhaps we need some outside universal threat to make us recognize this common bound. I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
Here we go. Final show before Las Vegas, as this is Spaced Out Radio, and I am pumped up of meeting all of you in Sin City in just a couple of days' time. One more day of work for me, and then it's drive time. That's okay. I'm doing it all for you guys, and we are going to have fun tonight. I wanted a great show heading out for this week, and we got one. The UFO narrative, what's going on? Lynda Thompson, one of the most intrepid researchers, is going to be with us here momentarily. And we tried to do this show about a month ago, but everything got caught up. And she decided that she wanted to try kickboxing and took a couple shots to the face, but she's okay now. She's okay now. And she's learned her lesson. No more kickboxing for Lynda. Anyhow, let's say hello to all of you. Race fan in the gold medal position. Raymond L. taking home the silver with luscious jewels with a nice bronze medal tonight. Area 51, how you doing? Lisa C., how are you? Human Carl is here. He's ready to party in Las Vegas. A great veteran of the United States Air Force. Thank you for your service, Human Carl. We love you around here. Brown Dwarf, thank you for joining us. Big Dog, you ready? Are you ready for Vegas? We'll see you there in just a couple of days, my man. Big Dog, by the way, will be signing autographs after the show. Line up to the left of the studio, if you don't mind, to the left of the studio. Ozzie Sue, nice to see you. And there's Donna. And who else do we have here? Les Paul Holland. He'll strum a chord for you. Robert Lamoth, nice to see you. Number 21 in your program, starting at left wing, Lars Jansson from Stockholm, Sweden. There he is. All right, moving on here in the roll call. Who else do we have here? Let's take a peek. Hi, Allison Singh. Good to see you. And Susie B. We'll see you in a few days, my beautiful friend. Obi Flett, my man. It's almost Taco Bell time. Almost 3 days till Taco Bell, my bud. I'm pumped up. Pixie Lara, we'll see you in Vegas. Much love to you. And let's continue on. Oh, Obi Flett kicking off the Super Chat tonight. The Super Chat is a wonderful way to support what we do on this show on a nightly basis. So thank you so much. Hi, Dutch Hank. How you doing, buddy? Dutch Hank will be signing autographs after the show as well. Line up to the right of the studio, if you don't mind, to the right of the studio. Continuing on, Forrest Louie, welcome back, and thank you for the wonderful super sticker. Love your continued support of Spaced Out Radio. Thank you so much. Hi, W. David Page. And who else do we have here? Amber Dawn Glover. She deserves a clap. Lee the Bee and Stephanie Kenny Blankenship. Thank you for joining us. Emmy Tong. And who else do we have here? Millennium, my man. Are you ready? Are you ready to cross that border? I am. Man, we're getting out of the country for a while. Hey, Paramarv, what's happening? And Digger Dog, good to see you. Richard Elmore, thank you for joining us. And who else do we have here? Let's take a look here. Scrolling on down. Super Crazy, how you doing, man? Good to see you. Great questions last night, by the way. And continuing on, who else do we have? Glenn John McEnroe, the pride of Wimbledon. Jessica Laura Lobbs, nice to see you. Nancy Thames, thank you for joining us. Hey, Gizmo and Dave Walters, good to see you both. Doug Shelby is here. The Doug Shelby has arrived, which means we can officially start this show. Hi, Esmeralda, Vinman, and Sandra Kincaid. Good to see you all. And Crystal J, thanks for coming on in. And let's see here. Ozzy, oi, oi to you. Ukrainian Anita, how are you, my dear? Good to see you. Let's start the radio side so that way we can get our good friend Bill WD-40 into the chat room and lube us up for tonight's show. Timothman, good to see you. Hadley, thanks for coming on in. Hi, Pink Volo. And Lee the Bee. And let's see. Dude, we're going to get stranded in Vegas. We are going to be stranded in Vegas. I'm flying WestJet too, my man. Pilot strike going on starting Friday. You'll make it. You'll make it, my man. You'll make it. Bobby Farron, how are you? D. Cohen, good to see you. Hi, Mac Geek. We're running out of time here. And who else do we have here? Who else? Random Gee. The Gee is here. All right. Candy Wolf, nice to see you. And hey, Doc from Wyoming. The rest of you got to wait, Vash the Impaler. Horns up. Let's rock. Mountains of central British Columbia to you listening around the world. This, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on Odyssey Radio, TalkStream Live, and KPNL. All of our archives are free. Join us at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. You can follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Tonight's show is brought to you by Chive Charities. Help make the world 10% happier by visiting Chive Charities today. You can find them on our website. It's a power show of UFOs tonight. Researcher Lynda Thompson comes on in to tell us all about the current UFO narrative. Then in hour number 3, we're going to head to Among the Missing. Steve Stockton has a great story for us. Along the way, right after that, Super Duke will be here with the Cryptid Report. Lynda Thompson is an investigative researcher and writer on UFOs. She also speaks on programs and to groups. She provides research information to reporters, speakers, and other people interested in her fields of study. Lynda has assisted on many international speakers, business, and political leaders on many topics over the years with her research and writing skills. She has written articles for various papers from a young age. Her personal research focus now is related to UFOs and connected military-contractor information. It's a very intense dive into FOIA and declassified documents from many agencies. It requires patience, determination, and knowledge, something that she puts in every single day. Lynda Thompson, thank you so much for being back on Spaced Out Radio. It is always a pleasure to have you here. How are you, my friend?
Hi, Dave. I'm doing fine.
Good to see you again. It really is. And I'm very sad that you're not going to be joining us in Las Vegas, but maybe next year you can join us with Science Bob and everybody else.
Yes. I miss celebrating my birthday in Vegas with you.
When is your birthday?
The 19th.
Oh, my goodness. And I'm on the 24th.
Yeah.
You know, I'm just hoping because I'm flying WestJet that is given 72 hours strike notice. I fly in on the 18th. They're potentially going on strike on the 19th, which means, and for anybody flying WestJet, I will say this, contact WestJet because they do have to provide your flight. So they, at their cost, will have to move you to a different airline in order to get there. So make sure you do that. As for me, I'm just hoping that I get stranded there a few extra days. Old Davey needs a holiday.
You were stranded last year, weren't you?
I got stranded in San Francisco because I was given wrong information about the COVID test to get back into Vancouver.
Oh.
So I got stranded at the airport for 14 hours
Yeah.
before I was able to fly out.
I don't
For-
like San Francisco Airport.
Well, let's get to it. You have become, over the last couple of years, a very respected and trusted researcher for many people behind the scenes and who are in front of the scenes of the UFO topic. Lynda, how did you get yourself in this position?
It's really funny because my husband and son didn't even realize what I was doing, and I would go, "Oh, I talked to whatever reporter today," or, "I talked to, this ufologist," or whatever, and they were like, "Oh, okay." And then when my husband started staying home and working from home, he was like, "Oh my gosh, you've got all these calls coming in, like, all day long." And it was really funny, and I'm like, "Well, I wasn't pulling your leg, I was really doing this stuff." So, yeah, and so my son and him, think that it's really cool, the different people that I get to talk to and do work for.
Why this subject? Why UFOs?
Well, I grew up in it. I had our own family going through the interactions with the abductions and even some group family experiences. And so that, plus my father was, I guess, very much an advocate when I was growing up. And I started at a very early age. Um, writing to congressmen and presidents, and, that was before I understood the mail system, so I would stick all these letters in the mailbox, and my father would go, "You do know you have to put stamps on these, right?" So, and then I, like, put a editorial in the paper when I was a really young age about the need to go to space and all of that, so and then I didn't tell him about that either. It wasn't until one of his friends told him at work that, "Hey, did you see your daughter's editorial in the paper?" And, of course, I was, like, 9 years old, and he's like, "No." He came home and goes, "Why didn't you tell me?" And I'm like, "Well, I've never gotten permission to do anything, so."
That triggered a real memory for me. When I worked at my one radio station in Vancouver, my dad always listened to the competition because he had listened to the competition for years. And I always bugged him. I said, "Dad, why don't you listen to my radio station? You never listen to my radio station." And here, I'm representing the family, the name, and everything, and you don't listen. And yet all his buddies would be like tuned on in for my sports reports and everything like that.
Mhm.
So about a year ago, I'm driving with my father, and he's got my old radio station on there and not the other one. I said, "Dad, what are you doing to listen to this station for?" And he's like, "I always listen to it. I've been listening to it for the last few years." I said, "You wouldn't listen to it when I was on there, but you'll listen to it now that I'm gone." So that's real nice, Dad. Real nice. It was a good laugh.
Yeah, that's funny.
So, Lynda, in regards to this wild and wacky world, the last 18 months, especially of ufology, we've seen a number of narratives. We've seen a number of political campaigns towards this. We've seen UFO hearings that have really accomplished nothing. We've seen groups like Enigma come out of the public while people like Lou Elizondo go back behind the curtain. What is going on in ufology today?
Okay. I mean, there's so much going on, and there's so much going on behind the scenes that, um, good and bad. And so I did get a statement from Lou tonight, and he said I could share it and that I could tell people it was from him. So
That's Lou
he's
Elizondo, correct?
Yes, Elizondo. He said the biggest threat to the study of UAP remains the deliberate hijacking of the narrative and the topic by fraudsters. The ironic part is that certain elements in the US government point to these sideshow barkers as a reason not to take UAP seriously. And in a very weird way, those who claim they want the truth from the American government are being used as ammunition by the government to discredit the topic. So, you know, I asked for further details, like any groups or anything, and, you know, he obviously didn't wanna start a firestorm with that, and I understood that completely. But, there are obviously some people behind the scenes, probably in the government and defense contractors and who knows who else, that are fighting against people who are fighting for disclosure. But, even people on UFO Twitter are damaging the disclosure efforts by the constant comments that they're making and attacks and stuff against the people involved in disclosure. So, that's a very big issue. And lack of any kind of united front without all the bitterness and fighting is a big issue. So, that's the kind of stuff that the government pays attention to, and then the wild stories and stuff. But, we have so many different groups and people that are involved that want disclosure and don't want disclosure. And there's some really secretive groups involved that I had no clue were out there that are like, go back even to the founding fathers of the country and their families who are pushing the alien agenda, and they believe that's part of the founding of the country and that it needs to be exposed and that they're going to help us and all of this. And I was like, when I heard the details, I was like incredulous that there was this kind of stuff. But then, there's other secret societies that are out there, and some of them are using rituals to get stuff done. And, so you have everything from pro religion and against religion, and you have defense contractors that obviously can make more money if this stuff is out in the open, and especially the younger companies that, right now, we can presume that Lockheed Martin and some of the other companies are getting the bulk of the work that is out there as far as any special, um, you know, whether they're back engineering or reverse engineering anything, they're still getting a lot of the advanced work, and some of the younger companies want to do that. So it's a real mixture. And, all of this goes back mainly to money, obviously. And so, that's where we also have some of the new companies coming in, corporations that are mining corporations that are behind this because they want to be able to mine the materials for all these special projects. And you have, it just goes on and on. You have all the energy things that are fighting pro and con for advanced energy to help the world. The medical advances, there's just, I mean, okay, so when I really got into digging deep into this whole thing, and I told my son, I said, this is tied to absolutely everything. There's like not one thing that this does not touch. And, he didn't understand that, but he's involved with finance and such. And the more he started digging, the more he realized that this was true, that UFOs affect everything and every topic. There's like nothing that it's not possibly involved in at some level, and people wanting the involvement. And so then you also have the, the pro aliens and the not pro aliens, and you have all these other things, and you have the different CIA leaders and directors and the Israeli, intelligence guy that are coming out with like the Galactic Federation or the Council of 7 or 9. You have all this stuff going on otherwise, and that, there's like going to be saving us or whatever. So, I mean, this is so explosive, and that doesn't even go into like the deep projects that corporations are involved in and billionaires are involved in, that are they could be running a different level altogether, um under under the radar. And so, and there's defense contractors that nobody would ever think of that's involved in some of that. And we learned of that. My husband and I learned of that from somebody that we knew, and so it was really funny. And so when the guy was telling us the story, and he's like, "I don't understand. I can't figure this out." And my husband and I walked out, and we were like, "Oh my gosh," you know. And the funny part is, it's the company my husband works for, and so, you know, this is just, it's an explosion. And you have billionaires all over the place fighting for it because they're seeing the money opportunities. And then you have all the end of the world people who are involved in this, whether it's cataclysmic, that's going to be the big thing. And somehow the ETs are going to save us, or they're going to take out a remnant, whatever. And, I usually refer to them as the others because I believe that there's multiple things going on. There's not just ET, that we do have an ancient presence here on Earth, and that perhaps they did survive some of the cataclysms and then they went off world for part of a time or not. There's all kinds of ET species. Supposedly there are, light beings. It just goes on and on. And this sounds crazy to a lot of people, but once you start digging into it, you see that it's just huge, absolutely huge, and that there's a lot of scientists involved in this. I know several scientists that are involved in this at whatever level, and, some of them just believe and have experienced the wildest parts. And then you have scientists through the ages and even philosophers that seem to have been influenced by these people and have downloads, and, they're like the, masters of philosophy and, that type of thing. So, there's people all over that are involved in this, and a lot of it is underground. That's the thing. And, like, I've had doctors, I've had attorneys, I've had all kinds of people contact me to tell me their experiences. And, I don't share those, I keep them confidential, but people think this is, like, some way out people or, uneducated people, and it's just not true. There's a lot of psychiatrists and psychologists have gone through this, and they know with their patients when they come in that, that this is real and it's affected their treatment plans for, instead of labeling somebody some terrible thing, they realize that they need PTSD treatment or whatever because this is a real thing. So, yeah, there's so many agendas. I was saying earlier, you could just take a dartboard and stick a dart, and you would hit an agenda that is somewhere, somehow.
How do we get the real story of what is going on? We got about 3.5 minutes before we got to go to break here at the bottom of the hour. Lynda Thompson is our guest tonight. What's the real story? What's the real truth? Because what we're seeing out of Congress or these congressional hearings is useless. We hear of whistleblowers coming forward, but we're not allowed to hear their stories. We have been told that pretty much UAP is not anything alien. It's man-made, Chinese drones, Chinese balloons, other sorts of deception. UFOs, well, that's been pushed back under the rug because the Navy doesn't want to talk about it anymore. Where's the truth?
Well, the leaders of the Navy have pulled back. And I will say, and, not to be political and not to take any sides or make this sound anything, but since Biden became president and his selection for the defense secretary, I believe, has had a major part in this. I have not seen anything where, Austin is pro disclosure, you know. I mean, when we had Esper, he did discuss it. He did go to Japan to work with Japan on the UFO issues. So those were things that were in the public, but there's been a shutdown since Lloyd has gotten into that defense secretary position. That's my personal opinion, but I've talked to other people who feel the same way. The Navy basically shut down everything from the top. As far as public information, now they did make some goof ups in the Secretary of the Navy's office. They did post quite a few documents that weren't completely redacted, and they got in trouble for that, and then they pulled them down and they reposted them with the redactions, but many of us already had pulled down the original documents without the redactions. So, there's just so many things, and we need the researchers, that will stay active because there's so many things to research and documents to pull and stuff. But at the same time, you know, it's it is the experiencers and the abductees that are gonna have the answers, and of course, they're not gonna listen to us. I believe that we're gonna be the guinea pigs, and that's why I fight all the time for protection for experiencers and absent and abductees. So,
That opens up another huge question, which we'll have to get at the next half hour here, Linda. Why does the government or these agencies seem to be afraid of the experiencer? Why do they not want the experiencer involved in the conversation? We had a couple months ago, Rich Hoffman from the SCU, part of Enigma Labs, a scientific advisor for the United States Army, come on and basically said the experiencers mean nothing to the project. They mean nothing. They got to get out of the way, is what he pretty much said.
yeah.
And when we come back from the break, I'd like to know why the experiencer and people who are having encounters are really being pushed to the side. Researcher, UFO writer, Lynda Thompson is our guest. And when we come back, experiencers and Lou Elizondo, when we return on Spaced Out Radio, second half hour is next. That's a good start to the show right there. Good start to the show. Solid.
I get a little worked up.
That's all right. That's what it's all about. That's what we do here. That's what we do. Derek Galloway, your wife said to remind you to pack your platform shoes and your bell-bottom pants, if you don't mind. DD Galaxy, how you doing? Rono good to see you. The ever-smiling Kim Jellin, thank you for coming on in. Angela G, nice to see you. Good start so far. Excuse me, Linda. All right. Now we just get to hang out and, be one with the gnomes. Leprechaun Highway, I couldn't agree more. Experience, personal stories are where the bread and butter is. The meat and potatoes. I love it. Love it. You're getting a lot of love in the chat room already, Linda. Dirty Filth, I've almost filled up suitcase number 2. Yes, we will be doing a show. So for our audience listening in, we will not be having any nighttime shows right through the week until Tuesday when I'm back. We will be doing on Saturday from 11 a.m. Pacific. So that's 2 p.m. Eastern, straight on through for like 6-7 hours. We are going to be doing a live YouTube show from Las Vegas. So that way you guys that aren't coming, you'll get to spend time with us. You're going to hear from all of the special guests that we have, from Melinda Leslie to Geraldine Orozco to Merle to Science Bob, Michael Schratt, Jim Goodall, Cryptid 559, Varla Ventura, John Ramirez, Lorian Fenton, Misha Johnson. We have a ton more people coming as well that you guys will be excited to see. Hi, Debbie Nickerson. How are you? The gorgeous Hot Tamale. How are you? Good to see you. And Wild Jimbo, thanks for coming on in. Mike Bothwell, thank you for that awesome super chat. Very much appreciate the love, my friend, all the way from Ottawa. And I thought I saw one more. Von Patrick, good Edmonton kid, hurting over the Oilers, but he hits us up with another great super chat as well. Thank you, Vaughn. So, yes, we will have programming for you on Saturday, this coming Saturday. And so that way it's good. If you're subscribed, make sure you got the bell rung too, and ring the bell on the channel so that way you know when it's coming on. Thank you tonight to Obi Flett, Louie, Cat Chaser, Deb, Anita, Marv, Jenny, Vaughn ×2, and Mike so far for the lovely super chats. It's a wonderful way to support what we do on this show on a nightly basis. And for the rest of you who are packing tonight or tomorrow, safe travels to Las Vegas. I cannot wait to meet each and every one of you. Some of you, again, for the second time, which is going to be amazing. And we got people from the UK, listeners from the UK coming, listeners from Australia coming, and all over Canada, the United States. It's going to be amazing. Juliana, how are you? And, yeah. Lovely Lynda Thompson is here. How was kickboxing, by the way, Linda?
I wish. That would have been more fun, I guess, than falling flat on concrete.
I liked my story better.
I know.
My secretary at my daytime job, her name is Carol. And when she first started, I always like to I'm kind of the prankster around work. Thank you, Molly, for that lovely super chat. Very much appreciate it. And long story short, we only got like 20 seconds here. We got 30 seconds, 40 seconds. I started telling people that she was an ex-professional wrestler. And she was the Canadian women's champion. And then one day, they called it the Vancouver screw job, where the fabulous Moolah had used a foreign object to hit her in the head, and it concussed her so bad that she could never wrestle again. So that's how she ended up doing what she's doing now. And oh yeah, I play it up. I even printed off a black and white photo of looking like Fabulous Moolah was hitting somebody in the head. And I'm like, yeah, that's Carol. That's Carol right there. Right. So here we go, everyone. The next one. Second half hour of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. My name is Dave Scott. Very much appreciate earning your listening ears. Reminder to all of you that if you missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the Newswire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. Here we go again. Second half hour. We're talking about the current UFO narrative, where it is going. And right before the break, Lynda Thompson, our guest tonight, I was asking you about experiencers. What happened to us? Why have we been ignored? Why are we being cast aside like we are just a bunch of tinfoil hat-wearing idiots? This is what the projection is from what's happening at the Pentagon. Sean Kirkpatrick, the head of the Aero program, at the last absolutely useless congressional hearing put on by Senator Gillibrand, basically said people need to get out of the way, let us do our jobs. We had Rich Hoffman from the SCU and Enigma Labs and a number of other UFO groups on a couple months ago stating the exact same thing, that experiencers and the UFO public needs to get out of the way, let the scientists do their work, let the military do their work. How did this all of a sudden happen? 10 years ago, they wanted nothing to do with us. They were silent. And now they're trying to bully their way past all of the people who've done some good work here.
Right. Okay, so you have the different CIA people who have made comments about the ET presence in their life. Some of them even abductees. You have had the former DNI, I think it's Radcliffe, who has come out and discussed some of the different things. So it's very interesting that the CIA of all people would have individuals that would step out and come forward to discuss this. And yet the DOD isn't interested in it. And so that is very interesting, that is kind of a change in things. Now, one concern is that the treatment of experiencers and abductees over the years, when that comes out, that it will be as dangerous as MK Ultra to the government for the different programs used against experiencers and abductees, the covert human interference and such. And some of that was going on inside of the Air Force, because I know several people who were involved in that. So when that starts to get taken seriously, then the DOD is going to have a bigger problem on their hands. And so that's another thing about it, is that they're not going to want to acknowledge that, plus the past treatments of people. So it is a complex thing. I guess I can understand that they may want to go baby steps, but the thing is, there's not gonna be time for baby steps. I truly believe this is gonna come out, faster by the ETs, the others, and so, they need to be preparing people, and so they can't do that if they shut us up, and, we're the ones that have more information. It's like you listen to them, and it's like, "Well, we think whatever's going on." It's like, "We've been telling y'all that for 30 or 40 years." This is not like a big secret. It's things that we've told y'all. And so, but they don't wanna listen to us. Now, there are scientists that are inside these organizations that know what's going on. It was interesting. I had a case involving a spouse of someone that worked inside the Pentagon who had, major sighting and had experienced ETs, and that started a real havoc, with me because I was getting, like, harassed and stuff because I was handling the case. So, they know inside the Pentagon that this stuff is real, you know, it's and the FOIAs that I got back were really crazy. Um, so yeah, I just think that they really are trying to shut us up so they can do baby steps, but I don't see any way possible that we have the time to do baby steps. And that's the thing, you talk to friends and stuff, and it's like, "Oh, we know about it." I've never yet run into one person that says this is all garbage, that, they know about UFOs, they know about ETs, many of them experienced them. I even went to a religious conference last year because of the topic was gonna be on UFOs and ETs, and I wanted to see how they handled it. And I drove halfway across the country with my husband to go to this conference. So they went within an hour from saying UFOs are real, that ETs are not demonic, that there's abductions and different things going on, including hybridization. They went completely through this in an hour to very conservative, right winged religious people, and not one person made a sound, not one person walked out. And I asked them, and it was 400 people in attendance. And so, I was like, these I'm sorry, but most of the population is ready for this. It's just a matter of coming out and someone having the guts to talk about it.
Why do you think the public is ready? I would disagree with that.
Hmm.
And we could have a discussion about that, not a problem. But why do you think the public is ready?
I think they're ready for the knowledge that it's real, for the knowledge that they're there. Now, the implications is the thing that people are not going to want to handle. I would say most of UFO Twitter can't even comprehend all the implications that this is going to involve. And it's really funny because I know somebody who is a member of MUFON, and she had a case that I handled. And, she was seeing this UFO in the sky for a long time when they were traveling. And when they got to their house, it was over their house. And she said, "Okay, I'm a member of MUFON. I was watching it. I was perfectly happy watching it, until we got home and it was over our house. And then we ran like crazy inside our house and made sure everything was locked, which, is funny to those of us who have experienced it because doors don't mean anything to, yeah. But, and then she said, it's one thing to see them, it's another thing when it comes to you. So, you know, it's just, that's the thing, the implications of it and people realizing that there's nothing that can stop it. There's nothing that, the government can do to stop it. Of course, they now saying that they have special weapons and they can do this and that. But, um, they're not gonna be able to stop things that happen all over the world.
No, I understand that they're not going to be able to stop it. My thing is, I remember talking to Lou Elizondo when he was still on the talking circuit. And this is a nice transition into Lou, actually. And I asked him point blank, was COVID a litmus test in viewing how people treat each other during a pandemic or when something big happens? And he admitted positively that absolutely they were watching the public reaction. People hoarding toilet paper, people hoarding food and milk, ripping things out of children's hands because some, 50-year-old fat dude wants the candy that's in her hands. I mean, we treated people like garbage, Lynda.
Mhm.
We really, truly did. And that was a cause for concern, apparently, in discussions at the Pentagon about this UFO subject. When you add in religion, when you add in, depression, anxiety, people not going to know, maybe all these big city bigwigs not going to know what's going on. They expect violence to increase. They're not sure what's going to happen to the dollar or the gold standard or whatever it may be at that time. They're really not sure
Mhm.
about what's going on.
Right.
And when it comes to this subject, there's only three major stories that are going to affect every person on this planet. Number one, aliens coming down in no particular order. Number two, Jesus Christ himself coming down from the heavens. Or number three, nuclear holocaust.
Mhm.
That's it. Three.
Yeah. Well, nuclear holocaust, when it happens, there's like nothing we can really do about it because it's only so long somebody can hide in a hole before they have to have air and stuff, and then it's going to be contaminated. So, I learned a practical lesson in that when I was a young person in the store with my father and sister when the erroneous rocket launch message came out over the PA system that was sent out in error, and my father, he just said, "It doesn't matter because by the time we try to do anything, it's gonna be too late." So, I learned, that there's no use in getting upset about it, you know, but yeah, I think the government's waited too long for one thing, but at the same time, anybody who's lived through a hurricane and has gone through all the stuff involved in that, it's the same thing. People hoard from the stores. Um, we were without electricity 14 days here. That makes some people do crazy stuff. So there's other ways to test public reaction. But the thing is, nobody's going to be prepared with this if they don't start talking and start educating people. And, being prepared is better than not being prepared.
Oh, I agree with you. I just don't know how prepared. Now one of the things I have heard is that they're not interested in your generation or my generation.
Mhm.
We're already passe. They want that 30 and under crowd that is less religious, more spiritual, more believing in life out there, more free based and willing to accept everybody culture, creed,
Mhm.
religion, sexuality. They want those people to be the starters of the disclosure movement. They feel those people are ready. My son, my grandson, they're apparently already ready. But it's that 45 and up crowd that is going to really struggle with this. And the older, the more they will struggle, to many of the older generations still being part of some sort of religious community.
I guess for some people that's true. It wasn't true in my family. I mean, when my grandmother started talking about the different things, you know, it it was funny, and it was like every day kinda, it wasn't a big deal. And so, I mean, she was the first generation that we knew of that had interacted, it was 5 generations. And so, don't think we can lump everybody together, and that's the biggest thing now with all the fighting that goes on is that, it's like, "Oh, the boomers are causing all the trouble." Well, I think that's ridiculous because many of us, have been through a lot more than some of the younger people in many different things. And, I mean, we could help them to be educated on some stuff. You know, just because you're older doesn't mean that you don't know anything about what's going on. And, I mean, the '60s and the '70s were big for UFO sightings and landings and all that stuff, and people forget about that. So, um, you know, I think it can be a learning experience all the way around.
It could be. It could be. And the idea behind it though is just trying to figure out where this is going. You talked to Lou Elizondo quite a bit. What's your relationship with him?
Okay, so we communicate through text. I don't bother him as far as calling him, and I very seldom will text him. I texted him, maybe 3 times this week. But when there's something important, but I respect his time, and so I do that with most of the people that I know and interact with, is that, I'm not gonna be bothering them every day, and I'm not gonna be asking for inside information. I don't wanna be one of those people on Twitter that's like, "Oh, tomorrow's gonna be a big day," and, it's like it never comes, and so I don't wanna build up hype with people. I wanna build up a trust level, with people, and then when it's something important, I'll reach out for clarification.
Okay, so what has Lou been up to?
I am assuming that he's been behind the lines doing a lot of what he was doing, but he's also been doing contract work. So, and I know that I guess it was Danny Sheehan said that he was doing stuff with Space Force. I have not said specifically, "Is that what you're doing?" I mean, because I know what he has been involved in, a lot of it's behind the scenes. I don't want to interfere with that kinda stuff. So, I'm sure I could probably ask him directly and he would tell me. I just some people I will push and other people I won't.
He has taken a back seat over this last little bit here, and through words of conversation that I've heard from many other people, he's not impressed with what's happening with Arrow, with Sean Kirkpatrick. Does Lou have the pull that we all think he may have regarding this subject, or does he not, and is he reliant on his insiders to give him the information of what's going on with this subject?
I believe that he's been active with the congressional people and behind the scenes. Um, different ones will talk about their meetings with him and, how helpful he's been and things like that. He's made comments about different congressmen even this week that, have been good for the topic. So I think that that's important that he's doing that and he's not wasting his energy on UFO Twitter all the time and trying to battle the different fights there. That's a lost cause too. But he started coming out some and, you know, he is talking more on Twitter about some things. He's just keeping the boundaries. And I think that's important for anybody. There's a sanity level. I mean, I don't respond to many things I used to respond to, and a lot of it is just so ridiculous. So,
No, I understand the internet is very ugly, and I know a number of people, including ourselves, have had to pull away from UFO Twitter because it is such a cesspool of infighting and personal attacks and ad hominem attacks,
mhm,
and that's just kind of the way I can understand where somebody like Elizondo steps away from that. Okay, it's not healthy and it's mentally draining. So the idea behind his relationship with UFOs is he still working behind the scenes? Because I have a tough time, and I have a tough time with Lou claiming that he is working hard for us for this to bring this subject open. But on the flip side, on the other side of his mouth, he's got it sealed up because he's got to be working about UFOs for agencies in their UFO departments.
mhm,
And to me, that is an extreme contradiction.
mhm. Well, it's a job, and anybody who knows anything about working for the government or intelligence or anything else knows that you have clearances and there's only so far that you can go with those clearances. Now, I understand his book is getting closer to coming out, so that will have some bombshells in it from what I've heard. And so he's probably going to allow that to speak for a lot of what's been going on.
Uh, what do you think he's going to say in that?
I don't know for a fact. I know in the past he has hinted at having had some experiences. There's things that he's interacted with. Um, and so, he will probably weave some of that together with the efforts and everything that's going on behind the scenes.
Do you believe he is a controlled opposition to this topic in the face of the public?
I know a lot of people don't like him. Um, I don't really understand that, but I guess it's because I understand a lot of these situations with classification and any kind of past intelligence training and stuff like that. You just can't talk freely on things. So, I can understand that. It's not like he's a free agent and he's not working with a clearance any longer or anything like that.
I have no problem with the clearances and the NDAs. No problem whatsoever. I don't begrudge the gentleman for wanting to pay his bills or put into a retirement fund or whatever it may be. I just don't know where he stands.
Mhm.
That's my problem. He could tell me a good game, he could tell you a good game, or anybody a good game. But when one side of the mouth is sewn shut due to NDAs, I question it. I like him. I do. Lynda Thompson, researcher, writer on the UFO subject, is our guest. She'll be back in the the second hour of Spaced Out Radio coming up right after this. All right, Lynda, we are clear. I'm going to put you back in the green room here. I'm going to step away for a couple minutes, and we got about 6 minutes, okay?
Okay, thanks.
Thanks. All right, I'll be right back, guys. All right. Hi, CS. How are you? Hold on. Perfect. All right. Hey, Gizmo, what's happening? Double day. Thank you. Once again, this will be the last live show until next Tuesday. For me, we will be doing the live YouTube show starting at 11 a.m. Pacific time from Las Vegas in the Golden Nugget. And I think we got everything planned out. Just got to pack up another suitcase I'm 2 suitcases in already. 2 suitcases in, and I haven't packed up my microphones or anything like that as of yet. We'll get there. We'll get there. All right. Annie Hoodles. Hi, Lynda.
Hi.
Yeah. How are you?
I'm okay.
Good. You having fun?
Yeah.
Me too. Me too. Hello, Chris. Teen. How are you? Still trying to figure out why you got a break in your name there. Can't figure that out. Big thank you tonight to Obi Flat, Louie, Cat Chaser, Deb, Anita, Marv, Jenny, Vaughn times 4 already, Mike, and Molly for the great super chats. Thank you so much for the love. And yes, Mennonite Abe, we'll see you in Vegas. Have you guys ever seen a UFO? What shape was it? I've seen a Tic Tac. I've seen a lot of UFOs, black triangles, whatever the hell that was on the ground that landed in front of me. Yeah, many. 15 seconds. And here we go, Lynda.
Okay.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott. Follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Facebook, Spaced Out Radio Show.
Hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. My name is Dave Scott. Very much appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on Odyssey Radio, TalkStream Live, and KPNL. All of our archives are free. Join us, will you, at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor. Hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Coronoscopia. Coronoscopia is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. What do I say next? Oh, yeah, our website, spacedoutradio.com. Our website, again, has a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the Newswire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. See, I'm already in Vegas mode, Lynda. Already in Vegas mode. Can't read my script, but that's okay. Lynda Thompson is our guest tonight. She's a writer, researcher on everything UFO. Lynda, thank you for joining us tonight.
Sure.
We have seen a major narrative being played out. I don't believe it's disclosure. I think the word disclosure is defunct. I like to call it more of a confirmation of the phenomena that's going on. Why do we still use the word disclosure when we know there are secrets being hidden?
I agree. I think it's a habit, and it's something that's been used for years. But I agree, it should be confirmation, because that's what it is. I mean, we've had this going on for, 70, 75 years, so it's ridiculous after all of this that's gone on that we just can't see that that's what it is.
Is it time, though, that we start understanding more, or the UFO world starts understanding more about the difference between disclosure and confirmation?
Yes, I believe so. And I believe that there's been a hard line on disclosure, but I think that's because of efforts that have gone on for years, and they really haven't accomplished a whole lot when you look at it. Now, I know, like, Stephen Greer is gonna have another one of his big meetings coming up, and so, he was, like, one of the ones that started the disclosure stuff with other people. And of course, we know where that's gone since then. But we have all these different circus rings going on. And so that's one of the confusions that's going on. And so, yeah. Then we have the groups that do the sighting reports and everything like that. And, they're not doing confirmations. And so, you'll have people who are considered rogue within those groups that will step out and talk about the ETs and the different things going on with that, but it's still not coming from the top of those groups.
Okay, so who are those groups?
Well, MUFON for one, obviously. There's other groups like, okay, you mentioned SCU. They're scientists, but the thing is also some of those scientists have had their own experiences. And so, y- it's odd that it's like we can't be scientists and admit to experiences publicly. And once a scientist does that, then they're not taken seriously anymore by the other scientists. So, we have those issues. Then we have, obviously, we have the new Enigma, which we really don't know for a fact what's going on with that group. And there's other groups that have been involved in this from the beginning also. And basically, it's just data gathering, but there's not like any confirmation. Like, okay, say New Fork, they have their database, but it's not like at the end of the year or the end of the month, they're going to come out and say, there were X landings reported, there were X abductions reported. They don't do that. That's one thing that MUFON at least does do. So it's like everybody is keeping this information close to the chest. And, that's discouraging to people because it's like, why do we even bother reporting it if nothing is going to come out of this?
Well, let's talk about Enigma Labs because they have the proper name for exactly who they are. Enigma. They are an enigma. We know that they are being filtered millions by billionaire Peter Thiel, who has the defense contract to protect the defense computers. Okay, we know that their setup is very secretive. There's very few people outside of Alejandro Rojas and Ben Hansen that have come out. We know that Richard Hoffman and former fighter pilot Alex Dietrich are unpaid advisors to Enigma Labs. We don't know who their research team is. They want the public to be calling in, much like they do to MUFON, except nobody knows what happens with their research. They say they're not going to be taking on government contracts, yet they're invited to Arrow and along with Arrow and the SCU and Galileo project to NASA's private UFO conference that they had. I mean, they've come out of nowhere and nobody seems to know a thing. There's just bits and pieces about this. How are we supposed to trust this group? Well, we don't even know what they're about.
Well, I've been told that they're not going to be doing investigations. That's from someone that has talked to the inside. Um, and so, and they're mostly data gathering, and then they're planning on working with the government, and they already have insights with the government. And so, yeah, I haven't gotten answers. Some other researchers have not gotten answers that have directly asked about that to them. Now, I will be going to an Enigma meeting next week that's open to the public because I want to meet them face to face and hear their spiel and see who's going to be there. You know, I don't, they're going to talk about what Enigma does and then and invite people to be part of it, but how can you be part of something that you don't know what it is?
That's the enigma.
Yeah, exactly. And so it's no real public statement about what they do. There's no transparency at all, and they won't answer questions. So I'm gonna go to the meeting so I can kinda stare them in the face and see what they're gonna say, and if there's a question and answer time, then ask questions.
Well, I have instructed my audience. I mean, and they can do what they want. Okay. But I have instructed my audience about what I know about this group. And to me, nothing seems on the up and up. Absolutely nothing. I don't
Mhm.
see any benefit to anybody giving their private information, their private story to a group that's going to allow that information to get right into the government's hands.
Right.
We
And
don't.
I've
Sorry, go ahead, please.
I've been told that they have a direct connection into Arrow. And so, you know, there is a rumor that when Kirkpatrick retires, which would be probably a couple of years, that he's already got an entry point, you know. So I've heard that, um, you can never track down facts on that, particularly ahead of time. But with that as an end game, then you wouldn't think it'd be anything serious going on, especially if that's somebody's waiting just to retire. Um, but so they're a data company basically, and their job openings have been for data scientists and things like that, not for investigators. And so are they going to warehouse all of this information, particularly on abductees and experiencers that come in, and then do who knows what with that information? And so, I've been told that some of the information they ask for is very personal. And so, where I would love to see somebody fill it out to tell us what they're actually being asked to fill out, I wouldn't want to put somebody through that. Now, I did look through the process one time, but I couldn't get any further than one point because I wasn't going to give my real information. Um, so it's just nothing about it is public. They're not sharing. So public can't trust to file a report with them if they don't know what they're doing with it.
And I would agree with you on that. I mean, I just don't understand where they just have the audacity and maybe I might be using the wrong term here, but arrogance to
Mhm.
come in and all of a sudden try and, whether you love or hate MUFON, try and bully MUFON out of the
Mhm.
way, New Fork out of the way, all of these longtime researchers out
Yeah.
of the way, whether it's Grant Cameron, whether it's Richard Dolan, whether it's anybody.
Yeah, I've been told that they've tried to, take over New Fork, and then I've been told that they've also tried to do the same with Madar, which is a group that a lot of people don't know about, but I have a Madar unit in my house, and there's people across the country that have them, and so if there is, an UFO close by, it will register it and an alarm would go off in the Madar offices, and they have been able to correlate some sightings with MUFON and New Fork with the Madar system. And so they've pretty much have gone in and tried to take over everybody. And so, I mean,
I know
there's
they went after David Marler and his tens of thousands of reports of black triangles. And from what I heard, they went out after him a number of times, and he turned them down each and every time because he didn't want his research going the way of the dodo bird.
right. I mean, they could warehouse it and it could be completely shut off from anybody. And so that's an issue. And like I said, the only thing they've proven so far is that they're a data company, which if you look at Teal, that makes complete sense because that's what he has done is he's a data person. He gathers data. And of course, then the real issue is, okay, so what are they doing with all this data? But if they're buying up or they are attempting to buy up all the other UFO organizations' documentation, I mean, they could just trash all of it and nobody would know any different.
Well, let me ask you this. Where's the money? Nobody does this for free.
Right,
Where is the money to be made off of this?
right. That's the thing. Now, okay, you could arguably say that MUFON has not made much money except for the past couple of years. We know that's not true because they've had major contributions and they have in the past, but this is the first time they've gotten into paying a lobbyist. And so that shows that there's something going on if they're going to spend that kind of money for a lobbyist to get them who knows what. So, there's obviously money behind this, and like I said, there are a number of billionaires who are pouring money into this. And why? You know, um, that's the issue, is there's only so many ways that you can make money off of this. Now, I do know, like, McDonnell Douglas, Donald that they would pay some experiencers and abductees money f if they found that they were liable to give information on what was inside the ships, and that there were even some patented, things come through from abductees in their name. So, there's that possibility that that's one thing, but they don't have to go to all this effort to do that, you know?
Do you trust Enigma Labs? If Lynda Thompson gave her stories away, would you give them to Enigma Labs?
No, absolutely not. Um, and so, I mean, I wouldn't be associated with them, which is problematic on one point. But, you know, I have difficulty being involved in companies that I don't trust. And, you know, I'm still a card carrying MUFON field investigator, but I'm not working cases. And so, and part of that is because I just have a trust issue with the leadership of MUFON. So, you know, I can stay active at one level, but then not be involved with all the politics.
Who can the public trust out there that they are getting proper information on this subject? Because it seems everybody everywhere is wanting to play the government game now, and the government has never been the friend of ufology. They're not going to start now.
No, and the Navy has shown that, because they basically have put a gag order out on people. They don't have their records available like they used to have their records available. Um, I know that, like, when I've filed FOIAs with different things, that it had to go through the Navy, and basically, I got a form back saying, no, we're not going to process this. And that, I mean, I haven't gotten some of the FOIAs back that I filed probably 6 months ago or so. And I probably won't. I mean, I know some MUFON investigators had FOIAs out to the Navy that took years. So, they're just playing games at this point with everything.
So who do you trust?
That's the thing. It's really, really difficult. I get information from a wide range of people, and I sort it out and look for similar things. I do the document research, and I try to go on facts, not rumors. But obviously in this business, you have to take in some of the rumors and sift them out. Like I said, you have to get information from a lot of different people and see where the commonalities are. But I still hate not relying on facts. I want to do the deep research. I want to do the investigations on the people and then be able to make a educated, intelligent decision on things.
That was a very long answer for not naming anybody, Lynda.
For not trusting people. I have some people that I do trust. I don't trust agencies. But then you also have to look at, that you can always be conned, and that's why I'm very cautious. I don't want to be like some of the investigators of old that relied on crazy rumors and were used by the government, to spread disinformation.
I understand that. And I think there's a number of people out there who know this subject well enough to know who you're talking about when it comes to that.
Right. Yeah. And there's definitely some people that I don't care how much they say that they're being honest, I would not trust them.
Have you combined, I'm going to put you on the spot here, and I don't expect you to answer. Have you made a list, because you're a list person, okay? Have you made a list of those who are bought and paid for, who are talking about this subject on a daily basis? Because there's a lot of new people who've come out of the woodworks who all of a sudden have all of these incredible contacts, and can pick up the phone and do things that those of us who've been here 8, 9, 10 years cannot. Are they bought and paid for?
I believe they are. Yeah, and a lot of them are younger people. Because for one thing, they have not learned. They are very much, they've got it all together. They know everything. That's their attitude. And so if you're older, you don't know, you're not technically up to speed. You're just not with it. But they don't learn from the mistakes of other people. They don't learn from the wisdom of people. And so, but they do. They advance very fast. They know everybody and their brother and all the secrets, and at least they say they do. And they chum around with people. And so they're ripe to being used and being bought. And they probably wouldn't even recognize it.
So they're not being bought with money, but with information.
Well, I wouldn't say just that. I would say because a lot of them do move up. They do have advancement in different ways.
And we'll leave it right there, because we are going to go to break here at the bottom of the hour. There is a UFO narrative going on. Lynda Thompson is tracking it down. That's her job. We're going to continue with that. We're going to get to some audience questions when we return. The next half hour of Spaced Out Radio coming up right after this. I would love to fire some names your way, but
I know.
it's
I-
scary. You know, this is one of those questions where I'm going to tell our public here something, okay? This is one of these questions which unfortunately would have to be behind the scenes
Mhm.
because you just can't make accusations of people and be wrong, or this is a very litigious society,
Mhm.
okay? And I have a feeling I've figured out a number of them,
Mhm.
and but nobody talks about it.
Mm.
It's weird. Nobody talks about who's bought and paid for. And when I say bought and paid for the audience, it doesn't mean money.
Right.
It means job position.
Mhm.
It means information. It means, hey, when something breaks, you're my guy. Even though a breaking news story should go to a proper show or journalist. Okay. Thank you, Deb, again. Appreciate your love. And maybe they get to see things, certain pictures,
Right.
or certain, somebody saying, hey man, if you head out to these coordinates on such and such a date, you could see a landing. Anything like that. I mean,
Mhm.
that's literally the espionage game that is being played in ufology right now.
Right. I learned through MUFON investigations, a couple of sites that were like guaranteed to have sightings and or abductions, but that was stuff I learned working for it. I didn't have somebody give it to me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I know what you mean. There are people that just, pop up out of nowhere and they have everything they need kind of thing.
If you check the chat room, I just put a couple names in there. The private chat.
Oh. Yep. And I've
Yeah.
had run-ins with them.
Yeah.
Definitely. I can think of a couple more. Yep. Yep. No question. I've been told that he could be a paid insider.
That would not surprise me.
Yep. Yep. All of those. There are others, but definitely. I have some friends that work Intel, and they've given me their diagnostic scoop on who is doing what. And these are the people that's what they do, is that they observe and they know the different types of games that are played, and they've identified a lot of people, which confirmed what I already thought.
Well, if you're up at this time tomorrow,
Mhm.
when I am on my long drive to Vancouver,
Mhm.
we will talk about that.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. I hate being it drives me nuts that I got to be secretive with my audience here, but like I said,
Right.
this is a litigious conversation,
Yeah.
or potentially litigious.
Right.
And there's a lot of names on that list that are on that I've had a lot of questions about.
Mhm.
And the public, if you look at UFO Twitter and always see the familiar names that are trending. You will get an understanding of maybe who we're talking about.
Right.
Hey there, Terry Brown, how you doing? Severin shot. I guess you want to play the role of angry man tonight. So, one of the wrenches want to take care of that, if you don't mind. Don't need that in the chat room. Thank you tonight to Obi Flat, Louie, Cat Chaser, Deb times a couple, Anita, Marv, Jenny, Vaughn times a couple, Mike, Molly, W. Decker times 2. Here we go. We pass the halfway point of Spaced Out Radio tonight. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Dave Scott. Very much appreciate earning your listening ears. Want to remind you that if you missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the Newswire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. Here we go, final half hour with our guest tonight. Lynda Thompson is here breaking down the narrative of UFOs. And Lynda, I want to just ask you right off the bat, why does there have to be a narrative on this? What's the big secret that they, whoever they are, don't want the public to know about this subject of UFOs?
I started writing this out tonight, and I thought, okay, I'll come up with like maybe 5 items. And I covered the front of a sheet, and I also covered a front of a sheet about the entities' agendas. And so I got to laughing about it because there's just so many. That's the problem. And, the issue of the billionaires and the corporations' involvement, the lobbyist involvement, there's obviously a lot here that we are not connecting the dots on yet. A lot of it is for the data, as far as these companies that are holding on to stuff. But like you said, and I have been this concerned, is that they could very easily bury data. I've seen it done inside of MUFON. So
okay, so why the big secret? Why do they not want us to know that we may not be alone?
Well, I think the lack of control is one thing. It's not like, I guess it was Senator Kennedy from Louisiana that said, lock your doors. And it's like, no, locking your doors is not going to do anything. And so there's so many unanswered questions. I can see like some of these areas. Okay, so like Burchett. Okay, he's in Tennessee. Tennessee has Oak Ridge. Oak Ridge has been, they've had UFOs and stuff forever at Oak Ridge. So while that is a security concern, does that also bring in more military dollars to Tennessee if they can validate this as a valid concern? Because, most everything goes back to money in our society.
UFOs, alien contact is something that would change the entire society.
Mm-hmm.
It really would. Is the U.S. government maybe afraid of the public finding out what they truly know about this subject? Is that the fear?
I think that's part of it, But I have to truthfully say that I also believe our government and other governments of the world have been infiltrated. There are species that do appear to be close enough to humans that they could pass for some of our leaders even. And that's been one concern for quite a while. And so some of the fighting and stuff like that that's going on could be stuff that they're also stirring up.
Do you think that inside this UFO Pandora's box that seems to be hidden somewhere deep in the Pentagon holds secrets that the United States government does not want the public to know about? Like whether or not they know about who's being abducted, whether or not they know about how many people go missing every year to ETs.
Definitely. I believe that they know. I have many reasons to believe that they know who the abductees are. Um, you know, we go through surveillance processes, some of the, my lab type events. They have all the satellites of various types they have now. They can see what's going on. Um, and then, yeah, there's no question in my mind about the missing people that, yeah, a lot of them come from, sad circumstances, but there's too many. And there's too many reports of spec ops groups that go out into the forest to take care of situations. I've had reports on the Appalachian Trail where, different weird stuff is going on. And then all of a sudden, they'll run into a spec ops group and they're told to leave the area. So there's too much of that going on all over the country.
Why are they doing that? We know that there's nothing being hidden at Area 51 anymore. Why are they doing it? Where are they hiding it?
Okay. We have a lot of other okay, so Battelle is one of the major managers of the government facilities. So, and they're not the only one, but when you look at like Dugway Proving Grounds, it's like one of the largest facilities that the military has. There's plenty of spaces there to hide stuff. And there's also, I've known people, and there's other people have come out recently about the tall whites being at Dugway. And so there's plenty of places to hide stuff. The DOE has so much control, they can put it at any place that they control, and no one, you're not going to get a FOIA into DOE. So there's a lot of perfect places to hide things.
All right, let's get some audience questions here. Start with Raz. Does every agency have their own agenda, or do they fall in line today with the DOD?
Okay, so the DOE is supposed to have major control over this type of thing, and they do have their own intelligence agents inside of DOE. And so I've known one person that was doing that. And so they control a lot of it. DOD obviously controls the military and, places like the Proving Grounds and stuff like that, but they don't necessarily manage it. They're just doing their work there. So it's compartmentalized and stovepipe. So realistically, the Air Force and the Navy could be working on this exact same thing and they wouldn't know.
That makes sense to me. Do you think that the United States government is in cahoots with an alien species?
I would say I don't know about cahoots. I know about the Eisenhower, alleged agreement. And truthfully, I believe that only because of some of the stuff that went on with my family, and that they hated Eisenhower. And I never could figure that out because I was like, oh, Eisenhower, and they were like, no, not Eisenhower. And so, um, but I do believe with the stuff going on in the national parks and stuff that there could be some kind of agreement going on, and the military is involved.
All right, let's continue on. Let's go to Raz. Lou Elizondo says he puts a failsafe in his book to prevent the genie going back in the bottle. Have you talked to Lou about this?
No. No, I haven't heard that quote. I mean, I can see, but at the same time, the Pentagon's going to have to approve his book. So unless it's cloaked in between the lines that they're not going to be able to read it, what he's saying, I can't see that it's going to get approved.
What do you think Lou will come out with in his book?
I would say probably what he knows to the extent he can tell, and about the cover-ups in the government and the military that he has observed. I would say he's going to mention some experiences that he's had, that type of thing. People that have been close to him that he trusts, and their input is what my guess is.
All right, let's get to another audience question here. Human Carl would like to know, Lynda, please elaborate on what MADAR is.
Okay, so MADAR is they're individual units. It's built off of a Pi computer board, and it has different things that it picks up, different signals. And so, and I also have an independent Geiger counter that's electronic, which does go off sometimes, which is kind of weird, because it's like, oh, great, why is it going off? But those two things, and the signal goes back to the MADAR office, which is in either Ohio, Indiana. And so they have, I forgot how many units they have now. Not enough, but I think it's over 300 units now across the country. But you really need a triangulation. And so, like in Virginia, to my knowledge, there's only 2 of them. We really need one in the Norfolk area and one in the mountain area of Virginia. But there's some areas that have a lot and some of them don't. So those signals go off in the main office, and they put out like red alerts, and they also will coordinate the information with MUFON and with NUFORC to see if there's any cases that match. And the problem is NUFORC is mostly confidential information. A lot of people don't even leave their names. So they can't correlate more than the information they gathered, but it's not like they can send somebody out there to interview them, which MUFON can do as long as the information that's provided is real. The names are real, or the phone numbers are real, the email's real. Then that can be correlated. And there have been cases that have matched. Fran Ridge has been doing this for a long time. I think he has a couple assistants, but like most of these people, like Peter Davenport and, the different people, they're all getting older, and they have helpers, but they're not necessarily people that are going to maintain it on an ongoing basis. So that's another thing, is that younger people who are interested in gathering information in databases are really needed in that area.
I can see that. Is that younger crowd coming up to help out?
No. And I mean, to one point, I can see if they're busy with their jobs and everything, but there's plenty of people who are not working full time. They have the computer experience and the database experience that they could help these places out with. It's like MUFON people are mostly, if they're not retired, most of them work jobs. So, they juggle cases and investigations even though they're busy.
So what's the focus here? What's the focus of how we need to bring this together? Because the media doesn't seem very interested in covering this topic, even
No.
though they're being force fed. Okay,
Mhm.
now CNN was going to recently do something or has something coming up regarding that. We have NASA coming out with their fake conference where they spent $100,000. We're finally going to get some of the results that they've had for 60 years. And they're going to be, oh my God, I didn't know. I didn't know. I mean, if real media was covering this subject properly, they would have an explosion
Mhm.
of information just on NASA alone and the lies that they are telling. And I hate the word lie or liar.
Mhm.
I hate that word because I think it gets used way too much. Okay? But in this case, there is no other word because NASA has been lying to the public about what's going on. And Bill Nelson, when he came out last year, putting NASA in the middle of the UFO conversation, he knows he's playing the public for fools. He knows that. There's smart people there. And
Right.
I guess what I'm tired of is how do we get that message out? NASA screwing with the public. Tax dollars, okay, whether it's 100,000 or $1 billion being wasted.
Right. I forgot which time period it was. I wanna say it was during Reagan, but the White House issued a statement, it's documented in archives, that NASA was supposed to be who got the sighting reports and stuff. That was after Blue Book. And, of course, NASA, you know, they don't act like anything. Even though there's been public astronauts come forth and talk about things, um, they still won't go into any of that or confirm it.
I agree with you. I mean, when you have people like filmmaker Darcy Weir, who literally has been able to collect astronaut sightings, like the voices, the recordings of them.
Mhm.
And NASA is sitting there denying or not even talking about it. I would love somebody in the press to press play on one of those Gemini astronauts or one of the Mercury astronauts or the X-15 pilot talking about the aircraft that was flying beside him at
Right,
315,000 feet.
right.
That's what I
These
want.
these
Explain that to us.
Yeah, the people that NASA always claimed were heroes and, they were outstanding and they would do stuff nobody else would do, and they trusted them with these huge ships and stuff that cost millions or billions of dollars, but they can't trust them to tell the truth about something like that.
But is that just part of the game that's
I
being
would
played
say
right now?
so. Yeah, I would say so.
So what's the end result of a game like NASA? Like if you're having a conversation with say Lou Elizondo or somebody else, and you're talking to them about NASA and this joke of a survey that they are doing for 100 grand, how do you approach that subject to some of these people?
I don't know. Um, I I just don't know because it's like they're not gonna tell the truth. Um, I mean, there's plenty of evidence out there that NASA knows what's been going on, and they cut feeds and, you know, yes, after launches, people report thousands of false reports about rockets being UFOs. But the thing is, there have been documented cases where UFOs were following them. So, and I know a couple of reports at NASA Langley where the Wallops Island, where people that work there have said that they see these things, that it's not they've reported cases that I followed up on. So, I mean, this has been ongoing. Now, at the same time, you have the people who have visited Chris Bledsoe, like Tim Taylor and other people involved with NASA. They've gone through all kinds of stuff with them, and they know secrets and they come out with those. And so either it's some big game on one side, or those are people that are trying to shake things up in NASA.
Quickly change the topics. We got 3 minutes left with you tonight in a show that Lynda, I could do another 2 hours with you very, very easily. Unfortunately, we don't have time to do that. Wrapping things up, what's your message for the public?
They really need to take this seriously, whether you call it UFOs, UAPs. I mean, even the government lately flip-flopped and started calling them UFOs in some cases. So the terminology flip-flops around. People need to know because they constantly are making up new terms for them. But they need to know that this is real. It's something that is being publicly investigated now by the government. Top leaders, past and present, have come out and acknowledged that this is going on. Some of our top people inside the CIA and otherwise are saying they've had interactions with ETs and other beings. So this is no longer a crazy subject. There's people from all walks of life that are going through this.
All right. Where can people find all of your research?
Okay, not all of the research because I've got tons of it that's not on my website, but I have a website. I know Julie's put it in the chat a couple of times. I do take audio and video reports from experiencers. I do not edit them. I just let people talk. I don't interrupt them. And so I put that on a YouTube channel I've got and also on Spotify when I can get it. So I've had some people do that. And now that my face is healed, I will continue to do that more.
Well, it's good because your kickboxing lessons didn't go very well. And if you saw Lynda, 4 weeks ago, she was black and blue all over her face.
Yep.
Her sensei didn't take it easy on her, that's for sure.
I didn't know a face could bleed that much.
You should see mine after a broken nose in hockey.
Yeah.
You want to see blood? I got it. I'm a bleeder. I can honestly say I'm a bleeder when it comes to that, but that's okay. Lynda, I want to say thank you for your great work in ufology, and you're one of the people who always seems to be on top of the game. And once again, do me one quick favor, promote your website on here where we could turn our audience to it.
Okay, it's HTTPS, and then it's LyndaThompsonResearch.net.
LyndaThompsonResearch.net. Lynda Thompson, thank you so much again for coming on Spaced Out Radio. We love you around here, and thank you again. We'll talk very, very soon, I know. And coming up next in hour number 3, Steve Stockton has a great story for us about Ape Canyon on Among the Missing. Then right after that, we are joined by Super Duke for the Cryptid Report. A jam-packed hour 3 of Spaced Out Radio as we go all cryptid right here on the mighty SOR. Stay tuned. Great job tonight, Lynda. Thank you.
Thank you. You have fun in Las Vegas.
We'll chat tomorrow, okay?
Okay.
All right.
Night.
You take care.
Okay. Bye-bye.
All right. I'm going to be right back. You guys hang tight. Cephalopod, welcome to SOR Chat. Be right back. Hi, everybody. I'm Dave. Looks like there's going to be a Vegas chest hair off between Dirty Filth and Derek Galloway. It's going to be ugly, ladies and gentlemen. It's going to be ugly. Raven81, how are you? That is true, Sovereign Farts. Very true. Susie B's bringing the chest hair wax. It's going to be like Steve Carell in The 40-Year-Old Virgin. Thank you tonight to Obi Flett, Louie, Cat Chaser, Deb times 2, Anita, Marv, Jenny, Vaughn times 4, Mike, Molly, W. Decker times 2, and Cat Chaser again. Thank you, my friends, for the love and support of Spaced Out Radio. We really do appreciate it. And here we go in 5 seconds, everyone.
Would you like to connect with us? Head to spacedoutradio.com for all your latest show info. Now, back to Dave Scott and SOR.
Third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. Thank you so much for joining us. We very much appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Hi to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on Odyssey Radio, TalkStream Live, and KPNL. All of our archives are free. Join us, will you, at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Coronoscopia. Coronoscopia is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. It is time for another spooky story. We head to Steve Stockton from Among the Missing on YouTube for this great journey.
Hello, friends. Welcome to Among the Missing YouTube channel on Spaced Out Radio. I'm Steve Stockton, and I'm about to take you on an unbelievable journey of people just like you. Their stories and encounters will haunt us on Among the Missing. On July 16th, 1924, a group of miners, Gabe Lefevre, Fred Beck, John Peterson, Marion Smith, and his son Roy Smith, reported that they came under attack by a group of what they described as ape men. The miners told authorities that they came under siege by the creatures as they were attacked with stones being tossed at them from atop the mountain down into the gorge where they were taking shelter in an old prospecting cabin. The men described the ape men as having long, thick black fur, elongated ears that stuck straight up, 4 short, stubby toes, and walked upright like humans, weighing an estimated 400 pounds plus. Known in the Bigfoot community as the Ape Canyon attack, the 5 miners included a man, as we mentioned, named Fred Beck. They'd gone to Ape Canyon to do some prospecting for gold. Working from sunup to sundown, the men were forced to collect water from a nearby spring as it was the only water source. They also used the same spring for cleaning up and washing their clothing. One hot evening, the men returned to their cabin, and needing water, one of them headed to the spring to collect it. Having arrived at the spring, the man noticed a rather large footprint that at first was thought to be a human footprint, but upon closer inspection, the man saw just how large the print was. He measured 19 inches, much too large to be that of any human. With that, the man made his way back to the cabin and informed the other men as to what he had discovered at their only water source. Now, the other men were a little upset at the blatant disrespect of someone walking through their water hole. They thought that, well, maybe their friend was tired and he'd gotten the measurement of the footprint wrong. Driven by anger at the encroachment, the men approached the spring, only to find the 19-inch footprint in the sand, just as their friend had reported. The men started to talk about other weird circumstances they had noticed over the last few days and just hadn't mentioned. Strange noises came from the mountain above the cabin. The men thought it must be the sounds of animals, but now the miners were convinced they were being stalked by something. The footprint that brought all the other clues over the past few days together was a single print, as if whatever had left it had dropped from the sky and went back up, one miner recounted to the local newspaper. Then came the thumping sounds, as if something was beating on its chest, that the men began to hear. This really set the miners on edge. After the thumping noises would come what was described as a shrill whistling that seemed to come from everywhere. By this point, they were too scared to fetch water alone. The miners would go in pairs to venture to the spring. On one occasion, Fred Beck was asked by Hank, one of the other miners, to accompany him to the watering hole. Rifle in hand, the two men made their way to the water and started to quickly fill canteens. As Hank stood guard, he noticed a dark figure behind a pine tree. This allegedly hairy bipedal beast darted off behind a tree before Hank could get a shot off. But soon after he saw the first creature, a second one was sighted. This time, Hank raised his weapon, aimed, and fired. Fred watched bark fly from the tree as Hank almost hit his mark. The hairy, ape-like beast quickly slipped back into the cover of the forest within seconds before the men had another chance to fire upon them. The men took note of how fast the creatures were running, far too fast to be human. Making haste back to the cabin, the men convened and decided to pack it in and head home. It was too late in the evening for them to leave that night, so it was decided they would wait until morning. The camp consisted of a few tents and a log cabin that had just been erected a few months prior to the men living semi-permanently at the camp. There wasn't much to their shelter, but it was not meant to be an indefinite living situation. The main structure, the cabin, was a small one-room shelter where the men could stay dry should inclement weather hit. As the men discussed the final details of their return trip, smoking their pipes and maybe sipping some whiskey, it was agreed they would leave at first light. With the details planned out, the weary miners turned in for the night and fell fast asleep. That didn't last long, however. The men all woke with a start as something large pummeled the side of their cabin. The cabin was under attack. The first hit caused the chinking between two logs to fall onto the floor. This created a hole in the wall where they could look out and see what was happening. Hank was able to see three creatures that looked like the one he had taken a shot at in the forest, and they were circling around the structure. Another hit. This time Hank was able to see what was striking the cabin. The 8 men were using boulders to slam into the walls, dislodging the chinking in several more places. Hank and Fred grabbed the only thing they had as protection and took aim. Shots rang out through the darkness, and all fell quiet but for a few moments. Another rock hit the roof. The creatures were trying to drive the men out of the shelter and were doing a good job of scaring them in the process. The 2 men in charge of firing only did so when rocks hit the cabin. Their thoughts were that if they only fired when under active attack, the 8 men would stop the attack and leave them alone. The attacks continued, though, on the roof of the cabin and from all sides. The miners were doing all they could to hold off these attackers while making an escape plan. The door began to rattle. This was their last line of defense. They knew the door was the weak spot and wouldn't hold much longer. Another shot rang out and a hole ripped through the door, and then all fell silent. The men used this time to try and reinforce the door, and as they tried to decide their next move, all heads turned and watched as one of the creatures reached through a hole in the cabin wall and grabbed an axe. Fred grabbed the axe and turned the head so that it wouldn't fit through the hole, then used his weapon to fire at the 8 men. This was the last bold attempt from the would-be intruders to gain access to the cabin, although the attack wasn't over. As the night wore on, the attacks were further apart and shorter, but they continued. A few more rocks were thrown and chest thumping along with growls, followed by the shrill whistles. Exhausted, but refusing to give in to the incursion, the men held the beasts off until daybreak. As the sun peeked over the mountains, the attack stopped altogether. The sun was all the way up before they felt safe enough to venture outside the cabin. He went outside to see the rocks littered the ground all around it. The cabin held together, but just barely. Holes littered the walls and roof. It looked like a war zone where the rocks had knocked so many holes in it. There was no sign of the ape men, but Fred and Hank knew what they'd observed earlier the day before. These creatures knew how to blend into the forest very well. Knowing this, Fred looked up on the mountain and spotted an ape man skulking around the tree line, about 150 yards away. Fred picked up his weapon and fired several times and apparently hit the target. He saw the beast drop, roll, and fall into the canyon below. Taking only what they had in their hands at the moment, the men made haste and ran for it. Luckily, they made their way to Hank's Ford vehicle and back home to Kelso, Washington.
And that's why we thank each and every night Steve Stockton for coming on in from his YouTube channel, Among the Missing, to hang on out with us, tell us another creepy, spooky story from around the globe. If you want more, all you got to do is go hit subscribe on his YouTube channel. Go to youtube.com/Swamp Dweller Reads. Oh, wrong channel. Make that Among the Missing. Formerly Swamp Dweller, but now it's Among the Missing. Steve Stockton, thank you so much. From Among the Missing to the man who goes looking for missing creatures up in the mountains of Montana. We call him Super Duke around here. Here's the Cryptid Report. Super Duke, the Cryptid Report with Super Duke. The man, the myth, and the legend all wrapped into one. Super Duke, the World Bigfoot Radio. How you doing, buddy?
I'm back, and I'm mighty tired because I'm just busy. I wasn't around last Thursday because the Mighty Swamp Ritual was playing in town for the first time in about a year and a half. And they're about to release their third album. They got the whole thing recorded and everything. They're just trying to raise the money to get it released, basically. So, filmed their awesome and amazing set. I awesomely and amazingly forgot to make sure I had enough battery on my camera. Like an idiot until about 2 hours before the show. And then I went, oh, I better check that. Oh my God, it's almost dead. Well, it takes like 6 hours to charge this thing. So I'm like, I'm screwed. There's no way I'm going to get it. I got a backup battery. Where's my backup? No, it's gone. It got lost in the last road trip. It's probably in Ashton's Jeep. So I'm like trying to, wait until the last possible minute where I can leave, get as much battery charge as I possibly can on it. And I got down there, I turned the camera on right as they started playing, basically. And when they ended their set, it was reading, and I had 3 minutes left. So I was pretty happy that worked out the way it did. And it was a really great show, and I got pretty good sound on it because they're so loud, it doesn't matter how lousy your microphone is. You can't not hear them. The floor was literally shaking. This is a 3-story old-fashioned wooden building, and they're up on a raised stage with Dustin's earthquake machine going. And you could literally feel the floor shaking. My pant legs were vibrating. And I've stood, in front of Lemmy's amp stack at a Motorhead show before, and it didn't do anything like that. So this was very impressively loud, especially for a 2-piece. And, you got a bass player up there that basically does stuff with his bass that you've only seen people like Hendrix do with a guitar before. So it's even more fun. But they previewed some new songs, so if you guys want to check them out, there will be a Doom Metal Massacre on my channel on Saturday at midnight after Space Night Radio After Hours.
Appreciate that.
After Space Night
After Hours. I like some good metal. I do.
Oh yeah, this is so over the top. Yeah, the world's loudest and most dangerous doom metal duo, Swamp Ritual, and they're the guys that do all the music for my channel. So this weekend, I just did an interview with Robert Kreider, which actually I referenced this on your show late last fall when we were doing a year-end wrap-up, and you asked me what I thought was really interesting this year in the Bigfoot community, and I referenced that he had a big expedition all set up, and he got different researchers from all over the country to sign up and go with him. And I had some suspicions about what was going on when I saw that list, and I let him know in advance. I'm suspicious of the motivations of some of these people. And he went, I'll take it under advisement, but, I have to give him a fair shake and give him a chance. Well, as it turned out, my suspicions were quite well founded, and so that's what we were talking about on this last show. How some of these people that had tagged along with them were essentially there to just sabotage the expedition. And there's really no doubt about it whatsoever after you see the show and you go look at the videos that both parties have turned out on it. And it's very sad that there's still people in the community that try and do this crap, undermine other people just to make themselves look better. So shame on you. I hate trolls and I hate hoaxers. What else is going on? Speaking of Kreider, this coming weekend, the first ever Kaimichi Mountains Bigfoot Conference is happening. He's got the guy that basically lined up everything there. And he's got some really amazing speakers showing up there. People that usually would not speak at a conference because they're just not interested. And they're way overqualified. And some of the people that are friends on my channel don't live very far from there, planning on showing up even though they're not speaking. So you could run into such people as William Lunsford and Stephen Hill and the Boggy Creek Monster himself, Keith Crabtree, are all planning on attending. So in addition to seeing all those speakers, you can hobnob with those guys because they're not busy. Other than that, I'm not doing a whole lot here, except for going out to an extremely dangerous location tomorrow to do detective work and be a cryptid garbage man.
Oh, nice.
So you may well ask, Duke, you ask, how the heck does something that weird come up?
I was about to. Help me out here.
Well, I gave you the pause, Dave. Well, as it turns out, Robin contacted me and I told her I was going to be going to this one location. It's Ghost Town. You guys have probably heard about it before on my channel. We've been there many times. And Kevin Lang from the Glag Saga up there, Randy K. Magnazzi, and several other. Brent from the Paranormal Portal was up there twice with me with his paranormal research teams doing ghost hunting while they were up there. And their analysis is that place is incredibly haunted. Yeah, no kidding. It's so haunted that when people go up there and start using it inappropriately, they get other things really mad. And apparently that's what I got to go deal with now because there's been like kids up there partying or something. We didn't get the exact story. But it set off the locals enough that they've got dogmen running around there now acting very agitated. And so tomorrow we get to go and find where these, we are supposing partying kids were partying at and clean up their garbage and haul it out of there. And then we're not going to spend any more time in the town because I kind of know where the Bigfoot that live in that area live near there, not in the town. So that's where we'll go this tomorrow afternoon, run around and see what we can find while we're there. And then plan on being back here like after dark, leaving there around darkish or sooner. So tomorrow's plan, dodge Dogman, clean up garbage, and find Bigfoot. There you go.
What time of the day do you usually find most of the occurrences happening?
You mean from like witnesses seeing them or just when we're doing research or what?
In your own research.
Well, we do daytime research. I mean, we get activity at night because they know where we're camping, and they come out, hang out nearby, and occasionally you see eye shine, and so or you hear them a lot. You hear them, but when we get sightings, this is during the day. We're walking around the woods during the day filming, and same thing with Blaine Tyler and a few of the other researchers I know, William Lunsford. Those guys rarely do anything at night because it's too dangerous and. How are you going to get picture or video anything unless you have ridiculously high-end, night vision stuff? You might as well just do it during the day.
All right. We got 5 minutes to go here, Super Duke, before we're going to go to break at the bottom of the hour. What stories you got lined up for us tonight?
Well, I got several of them. And one of them is from William Lunsford's new book, Searching for the Unfindable, which is over 400 pages. But as I was telling somebody, if you read the book at the same speed that William speaks, it's like under an hour and you can read through the whole thing. So he had an interesting anecdote that he mentioned in here, which reminded me of the same thing basically happening to me. And he was talking about being out deer hunting. And he said, soon we heard the familiar sounds of a deer blowing, a combination whistling, wheezing noise they make when scared or alarmed. The first few were deliberate, as though it was testing the wind for its aggressor. These soon were followed by many others, which you could tell were being made while it was running. There was no doubt by its actions it was fraught or distressed. We then heard the loudest thud I have ever heard, as though something of immense size had jumped from a tree and landed on the ground. We heard the final bleat, the footsteps of its killers leaving, then nothing but quiet. We'd experienced that silence before, still as unnerving now as the first time it happened. Though nature is cruel, we felt sorry for the deer. That hunting party that might have been why they had remained so far removed from us instead of coming in close as they had done on the previous 3 evenings. If killing was on their minds, we were glad they stayed away. Now, there's one experience in my Bigfoot lifetime I might award the blue ribbon for weirdest incident ever. And William, it's not the weirdest ever because the same thing happened to me, but here we go. It occurred late one January, just after deer season ended. Mine occurred during deer season. I was unable to hunt that year because of an injury and had been hesitant to walk around while people were still in the woods with guns. Because of icy weather, too many were panting to fill a late deer tag, and that's like a foot on a banana peel to invite trouble. I went to a piece of land that allowed you to walk right up to the banks of Mercer Bayou and into the bordering woods a mile or so. Excuse me. I'd hoped with no more shootings, things might be settled down enough to see something. There was a trail running through the spot where the previous winter I had found 4 hog skulls of various sizes lying beside it. This particular day, I was into the thicket some 50 yards when I heard some brush rustling not far away. I hid behind a tree and stared towards the area the noises were coming from. That's always a jittery feeling, until you lay your eyeballs on whatever it is that's making the sound. I saw brown hair through a space in the bushes and had narrowed down its owner to either a bear, hog, deer, cougar, or Bigfoot. With 4 or 5 posing some threat of danger, I nervously unholstered my gun. Finally, the mystery offender popped out, and it was a mature doe, clearing the brush, looking directly at me in my hiding spot. I wasn't surprised the noise from my racing heartbeat hadn't scared her off. I exhaled, reholstered my gun, and continued walking towards some suspicious-looking tangled trees. It was then one of the most incredible things I've ever seen took place. The doe walked to within 15 feet of me, halting my progress. I initially thought she might have dropped a fawn she was intent on protecting, but instead, as I started to ease away, she began to heel me like a dog. She made every step I made at the pace I made, simultaneously starting and stopping, all the while allowing no extra space to grow between us. It would have been really cool, except she kept looking at her back trail as though she sensed something I didn't. She didn't stop to browse or graze, puzzling in itself. I walked a full mile with her as my shadow, until I came to a swollen bay that was deeper than my boot tops. I stopped to survey my options, with her freezing in her movements and standing still as a stone behind me. After a moment, she looked behind her again, and I was pretty sure it wasn't because she wanted to see where she'd been. I figured since we were trapped against the water, if something was following us, it would make its move here. Therefore, I reskinned the 44 and waited, looking and listening for even a leap to twitch. She didn't move again either, more resembling one of those concrete lawn statues rather than a real animal. Finally, unconvinced there wasn't an unseen third party planning to crash our hike, my distrust of the situation got the best of me, and I headed back towards where I had parked my vehicle. Almost robotic, she turned and began following, at the same 15-foot distance she had before. I watched to see if she checked her rear again, but she didn't. Great, I thought. Whatever it is still up ahead. Ahead now being what we had just traveled. We hadn't gone 50 more feet when I found another hog skull. She stopped as I did when I picked it up and again showed some sign of nervousness. That was beginning to become contagious. Just her unnatural following was already freaking me out, without anything extra needing to help it. I came to the spot where she had first exited the brush, but she didn't re-enter and continued behind me. My truck was finally visible, and when she saw it, she bounded away into another undergrowth. I was now concerned for her safety, so I waited at my truck with an ear turned toward the woods. I thankfully heard no bleats, bawling, or sounds of any scuffle, because I'm just soft-hearted, or headed, enough to have gone back and tried to intervene. I stared into the woods for another moment or so, but she was either gone or hidden. I've been back to that scene several times since then, finding several more skulls and skeletons of various sized razorbacks. On the brighter side, found no doe anatomy or bones either.
Super Duke from World Bigfoot Radio. He's going to tell us more story time when we get back from the break here. World Bigfoot Radio's Duke Sullivan and the Cryptid Report continues right after this. Stay tuned, everyone. Another half hour to go. All right, we are clear.
Sig time, and yeah, I got a story that's remarkably similar to that. And unlike William, I did see that deer again, over and over and over. We've seen her every summer for 4 years now.
Yes. Hey, Dirty Filth, are you flying Air Canada or WestJet? I can't wait to meet you in Vegas. I just may not be going home. It's kind of awesome, to be honest. Hi, Terrible Times. How you doing? Dirty Filth, you and me may be stranded. And Millennium. We all may be stranded. Well, I'll stay at Random Gee's house. Chairman Meow, how you doing? No, the airline, Chairman Meow, that we are flying, WestJet, just gave 72-hour strike notice for all its pilots today. So that means on Friday, there are no pilots flying. So, with that being said, we might be stranded in Vegas a couple more days. Paramarv, you're exactly right. When Dirty Filth goes to buy soup, he only shops for lentils. Oh, Ukrainian Anita. That's perfect timing. Perfect timing. Cat Chaser, I am totally calling you for bail. 100%. Drive anywhere except home. There's Super Duke.
Dave, happy birthday, bud, and enjoy your big party over there in Vegas.
We may not come home. You didn't hear.
Hmm.
The pilot strike starts on Friday.
This sounds like the fun Robin has in Nebraska. Every year she plans on flying out on like Monday, and every year she's stuck there for almost a week. By the time they get the damn flights straightened out, then she can actually fly back to Carolina again. Well, if you have to be stuck somewhere, at least it's somewhere fun.
Absolutely.
Just make sure you keep winning.
Tell me about it. All right, we got about 15 seconds left. All right, Super Duke, here we go. Final half hour of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. My name is Dave Scott. Very much appreciate earning your listening ears. A reminder to all of you that if you missed most of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the Newswire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. Here we go, Super Duke for World Bigfoot Radio, continuing with story time on the Cryptid Report. How you doing, Duke?
Raring to go, brother. And a quick reminder to everybody, the Kreider thing that I mentioned earlier, if you want information on when it's happening, what's going on, who all the people that are going to be speaking there are, and all that good stuff, go to my YouTube community chat. I've got his poster up there, and it gives you all the needful information that you need. And special thanks to one of my friends in Louisiana that found this for me that's now on my cap, and that is an actual Indian arrowhead. It's one of the teeny tiny bird point ones that they made, and that was recovered from the woods in Louisiana. So thanks very much for grabbing that for me. I appreciate it.
No problem.
So, yeah, the deer following people. William put that in his book, and yeah, that's really strange. We had that happen too. It was our third night in our usual hotspot, and the team had started out as 6 people, had been whittled down to 4. And then 2 left, and there was just me and Mike there the last night, Saturday night, and we were going to leave like midday Sunday. We were just too lazy to break camp and leave that night because we were too tired. So we're just going to stay there another night, no big deal. So we're sitting there around the campfire, and coming up this trail from the river, we can see eye shine. These are big eyes, and they're quite a ways apart. And because the way it slopes down, you've got a wide open field of view, but it's hard to gauge how big something is. And a long ways off, you could see in the flicker of the campfire, there was this shine off these 2 eyes, and it was getting closer. And as it's getting closer, it's going up the embankment, so it's getting taller. And at first we're thinking, like, what is this thing? Is that like a wolf or something? But then it got too tall to be a wolf, and we still couldn't ID it. And we thought, well, maybe there was a hunter that got lost and he just found that deer trail and waded across the river or something. And no, finally it got about 40 feet away, and it got close enough to the firelight that we could see what it was a big mule deer, female. And she came walking right into camp, and she walked right up to Mike, about 6 feet away from Mike, and looked at him and looked at me, and she flicked her ears, she licked her lips, and she walked around the campfire and went to a little patch of grass about 6 feet on the other side of it and started munching that. And at that point, we were going like, well, this is highly peculiar, especially since it's hunting season. Deer really are good at making themselves scarce when it's hunting season. And there were just hunters in the valley earlier in the day. So there's hunters up there too. So we're like, this is very peculiar. So Mike gets his night vision goggles out, and he goes, okay, I'm going to take a look down there and see what's going on. Whoa, there's something down there. And like, what? Okay, what is it? He leans over a little bit more. She's got 2 fawns with her, good sized ones, and they're not brave enough to come right into camp like she did. They're just outside the firelight, just beyond the edge of the trees, laying down. Okay, this is getting really strange. So after about 15-20 minutes, she decides to go up the embankment toward the road, the opposite direction of where she came in. And as soon as she gets up to the road, within like 30 seconds, she turns around and comes right back into camp again. And we could hear noise from the other side of the road. So now we know what's going on. And Mike goes, "Are you hearing that?" And I'm like, "Yeah, and this is going to get tedious. So hold on." So I had to go up and walk across the road to get some extra firewood that we had stored up there anyway. And as I'm up there and I grab the big pieces of firewood, I know they're in the woods right adjacent to me. So I go, "You guys, leave her alone. She made it safely into camp. She's safe now. Go find some other one to chase tonight. She's safe. You can go get some other one." And I drug the log right past her. I mean, I literally could have reached out and touched her. She was paying no attention to me walking past her, dragging a small tree. That's a little peculiar. Then I'm breaking the small tree up, throwing it into the fire pit to get the fire bigger. I'm no more than 6 feet away from her. This is going on for about a half an hour. And finally I go, "Mike, nobody's ever going to believe this if we don't film it." And he goes, "Oh, good point. But it's night. Okay, you get the camera. I'll get the flashlight." So I became the lighting crew. I'm standing there about 8 feet from the deer, holding the flashlight up, filming the deer. Well, he's sitting there in his chair across the campfire from her, filming her. And we're going, "Okay, we just wanted to document this because this is really strange, and you guys aren't going to believe this if we don't document it, right?" So we got a bunch of video, and then we went, "Okay, what else do we need to pack up and everything here?" And he's packing stuff up, and he goes, "I lost my laser pointer." And I'm like, "What? We didn't even use that today. How could you have lost it?" And he goes, "I don't know. Maybe when the guys went across the river earlier today, I had it with me and I dropped it." And I go, "Well, do you know how far you walked up there, upriver?" And he's like, "Yeah, it was like, maybe 100, 150 feet upriver. And then they waded across some big rocks. And that's all the further I went." And I went, "Well, grab your flashlight and we'll just walk up that trail and see if we can find it. It won't take us that long to walk up there." And you were right on the trail. So if you dropped anything metal like that, it's going to be really obvious. Okay, so he's got the flashlight and he's walking. I'm right behind him in the dark, darker than dark. And, 3-4 feet behind him so I can see the trail from the light that he's generating from the flashlight. And I don't trip over a rock or a boulder and fall in the river or kill myself. Finally, we get up to as far as he went. We didn't find anything. Okay, we're going back to camp. Now he turns around. He's behind me with the flashlight. I'm looking at black in front of me. I don't have a flashlight, but there's enough glow from him behind me that I can sort of see the trail. So I start walking and I take about 3 steps. There's a big tree on my right-hand side. And as I go around the tree, there's these huge eyes right there, like 4 feet away from me. And I just about jumped out of my pants and I realized it's that mule deer. And she's sitting there flicking her ears and licking her chops as Mike walks around the tree with the flashlight so you could see her. And Mike goes, "She followed us." And I go, "Yeah. And she's going to follow us right back to camp too. Let's get back there." So sure enough, as we're walking back to camp, now I'm letting Mike take the lead because he's got the flashlight and I'm behind him in the dark. And right behind me, and like William said, about 15 feet, same thing, maybe closer, maybe more like 10 feet. She was healing like a dog all the way back to camp. And as soon as we got back there, she went back to the same behavior again. I'm staring near the campfire. My 2 does are right there. My 2 fawns are right there. I'm going to stay in camp all night. And that's what she did. So in the morning, I get up, I get out of the tent. She's like laying down on the embankment, half asleep. And as soon as I unzip the tent and get up, she's like, "Oh, crap, humans. I'm supposed to be scared of them." And then she takes off, and her 2 fawns take off and follow her. But that's not the end of the story. Was obvious. She's got a big scar on her side. She got attacked by something at some point. So you can tell it's her, not some other deer. She has come into camp every summer since then for the last 4 years and brought her offspring with as if to show them off. Hey, not only did I survive, here's my kids and here's their kids. And yeah, last year when I was up there with Eric, she came into camp 3 times. She brought the 2 new little fawns that she had with her She brought her two parent sons from the year before that were now good-sized bucks, and she brought the two little fawns that she had with her the first time. They were now also big mama does and had their own fawns with them. So she's got like this whole herd following her around. And I'm sitting there thinking about this, going, when I told those guys she was safe and they couldn't chase her anymore, did they think that meant forever?
Maybe.
Because it's really peculiar that deer and all their offspring last that long in an area like that.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, Super Duke.
Now, we've had them do the same thing before. I was up there with Scotty one time. There was only two of us in camp, and we were looking upriver, and across the river from us, there was two big bucks, and they were running upstream. Something had them spooked. And Scott goes, "Do you see that?" Well, no, and I back to him. So I turn around and I look, and I'm like, "Hey, where you guys going?" And as soon as the deer heard my voice, they froze, and they turned and looked at us and changed direction, cut across the river, and came right into camp again. Same kind of behavior. So we're starting to see a pattern here.
Very much so. You are the deer whisperer.
Well, there's humans over there. Let's go be where the humans are. It's less dangerous than these things that are chasing us that are going to kill us for sure. They can outrun us. So, yeah, this is the same thing with William. You know, they're smart enough to realize that. As a matter of fact, I should try and find this clip again because it was so amazing. It's just one of these random wilderness hunting clips. And this guy's out deer hunting, and he's got his rifle, and this deer comes out of a thicket and sees him and runs right to him. And this is, again, deer hunting season. Deer knowing it's deer hunting season. Boom, boom, dead. It runs right up to him, and he puts his gun up to its nose, and it's like looking up at him and licking and stuff. And he's like, "Okay, what is this thing scared of?" You know? And same reaction, like, this is not normal behavior. The deer's like, "Please save me from the monster."
Oh, yeah. Yeah. It's like a couple of years ago, my son was on our street. Like, we live in a cul-de-sac. And summer before last, we had one of my son's buddies lived kitty corner to us, and then the other buddy lived two houses down to our left. So the boys all congregated and said, we are going to we're going to play after dinner. We'll all meet outside. So us being the middle house, we're the meeting house. And so my son's sitting on our patio or on our front deck waiting for his buddies. All of a sudden he sees this deer come running down the street being chased by a black bear.
Oh, my God.
My son's like, whips open the door. He's, bear, daddy, bear alert. Right? What are you saying? Deer, bear. I said, "You saw a deer being chased by a bear?" "Yeah." "So, well, where'd the bear go?" He goes, "That way," pointing into the forest. "Okay, let's go look for him." So we found him up halfway up about an 80-foot tree. Started to come back down after looking at us, started coming back down. Like, no, buddy, you got to stay back up there. And he kind of gave me the old eye roll. Like, really? Like, hurry up, human.
Get your gawking done, human.
Right. Right. Do you have me on FaceTime, human? Because I'm sitting right here. Who are you making fun of me with?
Reminds me of a piece of video that my buddy Scott up in Alaska got. He's found some really amazing Bigfoot tracks before, but this one he filmed right at his house. He's standing out on his front porch, and there's this moose, this huge bull moose, walking right down the middle of the street. And what's even funnier, it's got the remains of someone's Christmas decorations, their string of lights tangled in the antlers, and he's just standing there laughing his butt off.
I never, you know what? I always thought that was some Canadian Tire or up here it's Canadian Tire, but or Rona type of advertising, until I was coming back from our museum one night and come around the corner, and there's this buck, and he's got Christmas lights all through his antlers. So
we had one here last year too, a buck that had a string on one side of his head, and I'm like, dude, how are you going to get rid of that?
So I'm sitting here saying, "Hey, Rudolph, like, leave the lights alone, right? Like, come on, don't be a jerk." Oh yeah, I've seen that. I was dying laughing. How can you not? How can you not?
Well, you feel sorry for him too. It's like, well, is this going to actually present a hazard? And in this case, it was like, hanging on the ground, and I was thinking it was going to catch on things, and he almost got it tangled up in the antlers of another buck that he was messing around with, and I'm just like, oh, this
Yeah.
isn't going to end well.
Oh, man.
So I got some reports from the amazing Kelly Shaw from Rocky Mountain to Sasquatch, who I was just talking to yesterday and trying to get to show up here and be on episode 2 of Inevitably Finding Bigfoot, since he's planning on being in Montana this summer. But he's got an interesting one here. Seth J. writes, Rocky Mountain Sasquatch Organization. Hi, I live in Cody, Wyoming. Once in 2 years, I travel to the Yellowstone territories to clear up my mind. It's a very beautiful place with a ton of places to take photos and relax. 5 months ago, I was traveling there, and I got to a geyser region, which I parked my car and walked there because I always wanted to know the place. Looking at the map, it was a place called Culex Basin. I walked for 3 hours following up a creek called the Nez Perce Creek. I walked until I saw a small herd of bison. I watched the herd for some minutes with my binoculars. The herd started moving east and faded from my vision, except for one. There was one lonely bison close to the creek and drinking water. He looked old and slow, probably unaware the herd was gone. I kept watching this one bison until I saw a tall figure getting out of the woods in the left and going in the direction of the bison. I couldn't see any facial detail, but it was shaped like a huge man, and its entire body was hairy. It was so tall, his waist was at the level of the bison's back. That's 6'6", people. I knew it wasn't a human because no one is that big. The figure approached the bison and calmly put its hand close to the bison's mouth. It had something in its hand. Excuse me.
What was in its hand?
The figure started walking. Okay, excuse me. It had something in its hand. I saw the bison eating whatever the figure had in its hand. The figure started walking to the forest, and to my surprise, the bison followed him to the forest. Moments later, I saw another one crossing the creek and going same direction as the other one with the bison. The difference is that this one was considerably shorter than the first one and had some kind of dreadlocks on its head. I lost my will to keep going east and got back following the creek, always watching my back. I entered my car and traveled back home the same day. I have to admit that I never cared about the Sasquatch stories. Always thought people were seeing bears standing up from afar or something like that. But after this event, I know that's not the case. So at this point, RMSO responds. He says, we know where that is. According to where its waist hit the back of the bison, it sounds like it may have been over 9 feet tall. And that, yeah, my guesstimate is it was closer to 10 or 12 feet at least. How wide were the creature at the shoulders? What color was it? Same as the bison or other? Any more details? Seth says, well, I could say the big one was 9 to 10 feet tall, and the width of the shoulders would be the same length of the bison's front legs to its rear legs, excluding the head and neck. So it's very wide. And the small one with dreadlocks was about 6'5" tall, and I couldn't see how wide it was because I only saw it moving from the side. The big one's hair color was light brown, lighter than the bison, and the smaller one's hair was dark red. If it wasn't by the sun's hitting the hair, I would say it was probably black.
Duke, we got about 3 minutes to go here. What else you got for us?
Yeah, let's see if we can get through this. Crazy Mountain, Montana. Dylan says, I messaged you on YouTube. I just wanted to start by saying I've hunted all my life, been in deep wilderness. I know what it's like to be stalked by a grizzly or a cougar, but I had an experience that changed my life and how I feel about the woods. When I was 17, my father and I were way up in the Avalanche chute and he shows the first picture. We were about 6 hours into a hunt and didn't see one animal, which for that ranch is very strange. You see like 100 head before you go through the first gate. It's a 10,000 acre ranch. So we decided to take a break and eat when we started hearing what sounded like wood being torn from a trunk. But it wasn't too close, so we didn't really pay any mind to it. The sound went on and off for about 5 or 6 minutes, then it went silent, not a bird chirping or a squirrel barking. My dad started to get uneasy and said we should head off, so we started to traverse the left side of the chute, slowly heading up the mountain away from the tree line. I was in the back following my dad. All of a sudden, I heard pop. I thought it was another hunter shooting in our direction. So I got up behind a rock. My dad did the same. He yelled down to where the noise came from. Right after he yelled, another pop. So I got our binoculars out to see who this guy was. Well, it turned out it wasn't a guy. It was a Bigfoot mouth popping at them. Make a long story short. And he was doing it at a considerable distance. It was about 800 yards away down the valley. So it kind of kept them tied up there for a while, and then they finally ended up moving along before it got to be too dark, and they were afraid to be out there at that point. But they did actually get a look at it.
Tell everybody where they can find Super Duke and World Bigfoot Radio.
Well, Bigfoot Radio is on all the great and some of the less great platforms. YouTube, Odyssey, Rumble, BitChute, right? Eon. You can find my support groups, World Bigfoot Radio and Montana Bigfoot Project on Facebook, and World Bigfoot Central on MeWe. Come on over.
We know you like that MeWe stuff over there, you know. And on the flip side, Super Duke, it's too bad that you can't meet us in Las Vegas for the fan party this weekend. We'd love to have you there, but your travels are heading into the mountains, and somebody's got to do it, man.
Yeah, tomorrow's itinerary: pick up trash, dodge Dogman, find Bigfoot. Okay, easy day. Then I get to record Danielle Diva about werewolves in Romania, if I survive and make it back.
Well, that's why you're Super Duke, the king of survival, always looking out for himself, and always has a piece of duct tape on him.
Duct tape, super glue, Bondo, baling wire, all the necessities of the last aid kit that everyone should carry.
You got that right. You got that right. I got 2 in my car.
Oh, and JB Weld. That's also in the kit. Can't forget the JB Weld. You can
Super
fix
Duke,
anything with that kit.
Thank you for coming on Spaced Out Radio again. We'll talk to you next Tuesday, and appreciate you coming on in. And a big thank you to our good friend Lynda Thompson for coming on in and telling us all about the UFO narrative that's going on. It's been a run for the ages. Which story are you biting on? Who's on your team when it comes to UFOs? If you don't have an answer to that, don't worry about it. And I don't have one either. Oh, listen to the music. There it comes. Mr. Bumblefoot warming us up. We got Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thaw rocking in the background with Little Brother Is Watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everybody listening in at work, at home, in your cars, wherever you may be. Thank you to everyone in our chat rooms tonight. YouTube, Twitch, LGAB, Facebook, Spreaker, LinkedIn, the Space Travelers Club, and on Twitter at #SpacedOutRadio.
I know you're out there somewhere.
Remember, this show is copyright by Spaced Out Radio and SOR Media Ventures Limited. Thank you so much for choosing to share your evening with us, because together, my friends,
we're watching.
we own the night. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home.
I know you're out there somewhere watching me.
Yes, the Woo train has docked for the night. But soon, my friends, we shall ride again. Your seats are always available. Your tickets never expire. And if you want to bring a friend, we've got room for them too. Good night. Super Duke. Super Duke.
Hey, Jessica, Anita, Sir Lurks a lot, and others that showed up toward the end of the show. Hi, guys. Yep, I'm actually working in the edit of the prelude to Inevitably Finding Bigfoot, which shows all the fun stuff we did on the way over there. And the not fun stuff, the endless driving across flat plains for hours and hours and hours and hours and hours and hours. And I really have a lot more feeling for the old pioneers having to go across there in slow motion in a wagon train for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks. And it all looks the same. And they're actually talking about that there's landmarks there. Oh, there's like Chimney Rock. This was a major landmark for the pioneers because you could see it from a week away before you got there. You knew you were getting close to something that wasn't endlessly flat and you were going in the right direction. God. No, I like the mountains.
Liberty. It's the way it goes sometimes.
We got some interesting video, some of it, so you guys will get to see it anyway. And Deadwood.
Dry toast. How you guys doing? CS, I will have fun in Las Vegas. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not messing around. Excuse me. Holy cow.
For all of those of us unlucky enough to not be going to Vegas, Saturday at midnight, Midnight Metal Massacre with Do Metal Meister, Duo, Swamp Ritual on my channel. Just recorded this last Thursday at the Badlander, where the evil cowboys go to listen to doom metal. Not even kidding, that's the name of the bar.
And Super Duke rocking on out with his horns up.
Their emblem is 2 cross 6 shooters, man. This is like the evil cowboy bar for the last 150 years or something. Good humor. Well, anyway, have a blast over there in Vegas and, do all the stuff I wouldn't do.
Oh, we plan on it.
Okay.
We plan on it. And you just don't go getting hurt by any Wookiees out there, dude.
Yeah, I'm not really worried about them. It's the currently really whizzed off dogmen that are hanging around the area that I'm worried about.
Yeah, be careful, buddy.
Yeah, that's why we're only doing a daytime trip for a few hours, recon the area, try and find the garbage that they're pissed off about, pick it up and get it out of there so they'll be less pissed off the next time we show up and they won't be mad at us. Because we showed up and cleaned up the mess that they're pissed off about. They essentially look at this ghost town as if it was a graveyard. So it's not an appropriate place to go having parties and throwing trash all over the place.
You got to yell at those kids to get off your lawn.
Well, that's it, and if they don't get off the lawn, Dogman's going to do something that they really want to get off the lawn. For those of you that watch Lord of the Rings, the dead men of Dunharrow, this place is made for the dead. The dead keep it. And that's actually what's going on. So, anyway, love you guys. Everybody have a great weekend. Dave, especially, have a great weekend. May everything go super spectacularly and break a leg.
All right, buddy. You take care, okay?
I'll be fine. I'm Duke. I'm indestructible.
And I will always love Duke. Boy, he got out of there in a hurry. He's trying to be nice and sing for the guy. Kind of rude, actually. Kind of rude. I have to address that. Pretty much, Stargazer. Hi, Sundance Kid. Little Jimmy Goodall, thanks for stopping on by. JSCO, we will, man. Hi there, Luscious Gong Show. You're a vintage 73 too, eh? My eyes are so buggy right now. Night, Luscious Jules. Hope you're feeling better, honey. Oh, I'm losing steam fast here. Thanks, Mike Bothwell. It's very nice, dude. Thank you. Thank you, Scrub a Dub Dub. 112233. I should be right back, guys. Hello, I'm Dave. I'm looking forward to hanging out with all of you. And if you're not coming this year, shortly after, we will have news on next year's event, where it's going to be and everything. And if you're like me and you got to start putting money away, make sure you do that, because we want to be able to have fun with all of you. And to be honest with you, the people who are in the chat room nightly are a little bit more important. Yeah, you're a little bit more important because you're here with us nightly, and that means the world. So if you can, we'd love to see you. If you can't make it this year, we'd love to see you next year. And we will have it all planned out. And we're going to do a little bit more due diligence on the location for next year. Make sure there isn't any giant concerts that are going to make prices explode. Preston and Dolly are not coming. Basically, with the celebrities that are there, I kind of leave that up to them. I invite as many as I can. The difference between what we do and what they do, or conferences do, is on our end, like on a conference end, they are paying, the conferences are paying their way to get there. We just invite the world and say, if you can make it, great. Just let us know that you could make it. So it's on their dime. Like I said, they are all coming to meet you guys. And yeah, the concert it wasn't our fault this year. We booked the dates back in September. And then earlier this year, it was announced this giant EDM concert that brings in like 100, 200,000 people, if not more, are all of a sudden announced they were coming back. So that was part of our issue, because immediately it drove up prices. And if you are going, good news, Merle has announced he will be feeling good enough to go. There will be Merle there. Merle. So bring your top Merles. And make it happen. Yeah, we're going to need lots of Merling in Las Vegas. Lots of Merling. Thurston Howell the third, how you doing, buddy? Indrid Cold, how you doing? Dragus Prod on Twitch, how you doing, buddy? I'm tired. Just dead tired, and I got a long week ahead. So tomorrow I work until 5. Then I have to race home, make sure everything is packed up, grab my microphones, grab everything, and kind of go from there. Make sure I bring my computer because that will suck if I don't. Then hit the road. It's the way we do it, man. It's the way we do it. All right, that one's done too. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to call it the night because it is time for me to get to bed and it's time for us to say goodbye. I will be back next Tuesday. It's all on our website for the shows. And don't forget Saturday, 11 p.m. Pacific, we will be going live 6 to 7 hours in Las Vegas for our fan party. We're going to have a blast. Wish you were all coming. I do. Until then, we'll see you next week. Actually, we'll see you Saturday. What the hell, right? Take care, everyone.
Stay healthy, my friend.
You too.
If you need bail money, give me a call.
Always, Dad. Take care.
You too.